What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Strength Coach Rants. I'm your host, Connor Lyons, and today we're actually going to be talking about AAA hockey in the state of Florida.
I don't want to hear you, 'cause you cannot master the stress.
All right, welcome back. It's been a couple months. This is our fourth season of this podcast. It's been fun to kind of steadily watch it grow. We always do pretty good near the end of the year, and then we die off because there's just no time to do anything. But all the kids are starting to take off now. The college kids are gone, major junior kids, and junior kids are starting to take off. So we got a little bit more time, so we'll be dedicating a little bit more time back to this kind of thing. Today we're going to be talking about an area of contention here in the state of Florida, which is AAA hockey. So if you're watching this from another state and you don't really understand how Florida hockey works, essentially our governing body, which is SAHOF, has mandated that there are to be no other AAA teams in the state of Florida outside of the alliance. So we've got like two teams in the entire state, per age group. We have a north and a south, and not even all age groups have that. So we're going to talk today about why I believe that they kind of need to take the handcuffs off and let us succeed or fail on our own. I don't know what the argument is. It's always like, well, there's not enough kids. We're going to dispel that today. Another argument is the logistics of the state, which is a really stupid argument. But that's what we hear. And essentially, I think what happens is SAHOF does not want us to get embarrassed on the national stage. We've actually had a couple alliance teams either play for a national championship or be close to playing for one. We do pretty well. Most of our teams end up in the top 10 or 15 until you get to the 18U level, and at that point all the kids are gone. So they're competitive, but they're not in any way, shape, or form one of the best teams in the country. But I think that's the argument. They don't want AAA hockey in the state of Florida to get watered down. And today I'm going to make my case for why I think that's a nonsense argument, and that the market is always better at doing these things than any kind of bureaucracy is. So we're going to start off. Hockey's like really grown down here in the state. When I was growing up, I graduated in 2003 from high school here in Tampa, Florida. I went out to play junior hockey, and then I played some NCAA hockey. And at the time, I was the first kid in 2005 when I left junior to go play NCAA hockey, small Division III school, Nichols College. I was the first kid from the Brandon rink here in just outside Tampa to go play college hockey. It was a very small niche sport back then. I don't have access to like the numbers from back then as far as USA Hockey goes. I don't know if they really even kept all that good track of them like back then. But coming from Florida was like a strike. If you went to like a junior tryout or you were getting scouted, like Florida was strike number one, possibly strike number two. And not a lot of kids got a fair shake. Around 2001, you had IMG open up a hockey portion of their academy sports, and that lasted for about 3 years. Had some kids that could really play come out of there, go on to play, in the North American League, the USHL, the BC and the Alberta Leagues, the Saskatchewan League, the Ontario League. Had some good players come through, but none of them were really local. A lot of these kids came from other places to come play at IMG, and that was like the first AAA program that we had. Now, while that was going on, we also had another team down in South Florida called the Palm Beach Panthers, and they were another AAA program, but all the kids were like prep school kids who came down at the end of the year and played like a Southeast District championship against the IMG, and the winner would go on to nationals. And there was also one other team prior to then. It was the Coyotes Black. They came out of Fort Lauderdale area, and they were another team that played like a AAA schedule. But nothing was as organized back then as it is today. It's completely different worlds at this point. But that we had enough talent back then to kind of support more than one AAA organization. And since then, we've had the creation of what's called the Florida Alliance. I'm not sure when it happened. I didn't bother to do any research into it. But as long as I can remember, the Alliance have been the AAA organization in Florida. And Sehoff has mandated that they can be the only team. And for a while, actually, before some lawsuits happened, rinks were not allowed to house AAA organizations, or they would not be able to have their teams compete in the SFHL, which is the South Florida Hockey League, which is like our single A and double A league down here. So if you had a AAA team, you could not have a double A or a single A team, and that's kind of how they kept everyone at bay. There's a lawsuit a while back. I'm not privy to what it was about, but I know now rinks can house AAA teams. It's just highly discouraged. There was supposed to be the Maine Nordiques, from what I understand, were supposed to create a team down here, a AAA program. That fell through. Last year we had like an academy that was supposed to be a AAA program. That fell through. TPH has been in South Florida before. We have a rink probably 15 minutes from me called The Nest, and they have just started an academy. So there's another AAA team, but they're not affiliated with Sehoff, from what I understand. I don't know that they're national bound at this point because of that. So they also have like double A and single A teams. You know what? Actually, I'm not positive that they do have a AAA team. They may not. They're very new in having kids who can both afford to go to an academy, 30 plus K a year, and also be good at hockey. It's a very hard find. So they may be just doing a double A schedule this year. But essentially, now we have more kids than we've ever had before. There's not a billion. That was just stupid. There's a ton of kids that are playing now. We have kids that are now playing in the NHL from down here. We have a bunch of D1 kids. We have some kids playing major junior. We have a ton of draft picks over the past 5 years. I say a ton, probably like 6 to 10. But kids that have a legitimate shot to play in the NHL. There's a ton of talent down here, and we're not like developing it at all. And I'll get into that after we get through all the numbers here. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to pull up some PDFs of some numbers that I put together. I got these numbers from both myhockeyrankings.com and the USA Hockey website on numbers of USA Hockey participants per state. So what USA Hockey does, they keep track of all this. They're able to separate the men from the women, everything under 19U, so like 17 to 18, 15 to 16, 13 to 14, 11 to 12, all that. And I kind of compiled all these numbers, and I want to take a look at them and show you that the arguments that Sehoff and our governing bodies have is a nonsense argument. And if it is really the argument, then there's some other changes that need to happen. So first one I'm going to pull up. Where are we? Is this it? Nope. Wrong one. Okay, so this is all the numbers that we're going to be going over today. I'll break them down individually. If you're just listening and not watching, it is a breakdown of how many kids play the sport at what age in various districts, and then also like how many teams are within that district. And I think I'm going to be able to make my case as to why Florida right now needs to make some serious changes. So the first one we're going to go over here. No, those are the states. Sorry, I didn't prepare very good for this one. No. Man, I keep pulling up the wrong one. All right, well, let's just do this because it's right here in front of us. All right, first one. This is a breakdown at the very top of your screen of the various age groups and the number of Tier 1 programs that district has. All right, so we go from the Southeast all the way through Atlantic, Central Mass, Michigan, Mid-Am, all of those, all the way to the Rocky Mountain District. And you'll see, like, Florida in the Southeast, like, have pretty good membership numbers, right? So if you look at the Southeast District, between the ages of 17 and 18, there are 3,244 players. Now, for those 3,244 players, there were only six Tier 1 or AAA programs within that district or our district down here at that age group. If you go down to 15, 16, there are more kids. There's 4,682, all right, and there are still only 6 programs or organizations at the 16U level and at the 15 only level. And then you go down to 13 to 14 years old, we are at 5,525 kids, and there are 6 at the 14U level and 4 or 5 or 6 at the 13U level. I'm not sure if the Alliance has a North and a South that age group. That's why 5 is there. It might be 6. But in the Southeast District, we are on average 1 team at the 18U level, 1 team for every 541 kids. All right, and if you're not looking at this and you're just listening, kind of bear with me here, but if you go down, most of these districts are in the 100 to 200 range, right, with the exception of Minnesota, which is its own thing. That's why it's highlighted in red. They do hockey very differently up there. Shattuck's like the only kind of Tier 1 program in the state that's national bound. So those numbers look very off, where you've got 2,290 kids for 1 team. Most of those kids aren't actually from Minnesota. There's quite a few Florida boys playing up in Minnesota at Shattuck right now, or in the past over the years. So Florida at the 18U level is 541 kids per 1 team. If you drop down to the 16 and 15s, you're looking at 390 kids. And now in this same space here, most districts are in the 100s to 200s. Florida's at the 390. All right, and if you go down to the 13 to 14 age groups, we have 5,525 kids registered playing in the state, and that is 1 team for every, or sorry, not in the state, in this district. That is 1 team for every 502 kids, and again, the vast majority of these programs are in the 100, 200, 300 range. Northern Plains is a bit of an anomaly. They're like 687. There's only 2 Tier 1 programs in the entire district. There's not a lot of kids that play hockey out that way. So that's why it looks like that. But Florida, or Southeast District, by and large, is the least represented district when it comes to how many kids are playing versus how many Tier 1 opportunities there are. All right, this next one, I will pull up the larger version of this. Straight player per team. Which one is this? Oh, this is what I was trying to get to before. All right. Oh, no, it's not. That's the states. Take that off. That's the one we just had. Nope. Man, I did really bad at this today. And that's there. All right, so this is the each district broken down by age group, and then the average amount of teams, right? So in the Southeast, our rank on average from 13U to 18U is 11th, right? So out of the 12 districts, we come in 11th on average for those age groups, meaning we have almost the fewest opportunities per child registered to play, if that makes sense, right? The Atlantic District is near 1. There are like 1 billion teams in the Atlantic District. It's wild, and we'll go over that in a little bit. But you can see here, again, the Southeast District, we're at the 17 and 18U level. We're at 11. We rank 11th. We rank 12th at 15, 16. And then at the 13 to 14, we rank 10th. That's your 13U and 14U teams. Under the age of 19, the Southeast District has the 5th most players in the entire district out of all of the districts. So that's taking like all the USA Hockey registrants and getting rid of anyone over the age of 18. So from 18 and below, we have 34,883. All right, our player rank number is 5th, and we are in 11th place when it comes to how many opportunities there are, right? That's wild. So for the SAHOF and these governing bodies to consistently say we don't have enough kids is total nonsense. There are absolutely enough kids. You can see that we're 5th on the list behind, Central and Mass and Minnesota. And who's the number 1? Oh, Central District, 50,000 kids. All right, so it's a garbage argument. Next one I'm going to bring up is the states. Yes. All right, so to break down from district, now we're going to go to where these states are. So what I did was I took Florida, California, New Jersey, and Texas because they're very similar. And then I took the districts that are represented by an entire state, right? So Massachusetts, New York, Minnesota, and Michigan have their own districts because there are so many kids that play there. And if you look at the 17 to 18, right, Florida's at 806 kids. We have 2 teams. That is 403 kids for every one team at that age group, right? You look down at Michigan, they're at 185, right, which it's Michigan, okay. New York is 219, Massachusetts is 142, and I pulled up California and Texas because I figured they're non-traditional markets. They're very similar to Florida, larger population, not quite as popular of a sport, so you don't have quite as many kids, right? And we are still well behind California at this point. And Texas, actually, in doing this research, Texas people should be pretty pissed too. There should be more AAA opportunity down there in Texas because they're at 686. Right, California, there's 262 teams for 262 kids for every one AAA or Tier 1 national bound team. Whereas here in Florida, we're at 403, right? Not a good look at the 15 to 16. So it's like your 16U and your 15s only. Florida's at 304, so we do a little bit better there because we have a north and a south at the 16U and the 15U level. So you would have 304 kids for every one potential team in the state. California is at 190. Michigan's at 196. New York at 176. Massachusetts at 116. Texas at 488. Again, y'all should be a little bit more upset about this. There's not a ton of opportunity for you guys there. And then 13, 14, there's a 13 only and 14U team. Here in Florida, we're 1,530 players, right, which is not that far off from California's 2,213. We are at 510 kids per possible opportunity to play on a Tier 1 team here in the state, whereas California is at 184, right? So in the state of Florida, we have 3 teams, possibly 4, at that age group. California has 12, right? I would say comparably, California and Texas hockey are probably fairly similar just due to the fact that the populations are so large. It blows my mind that they say there aren't enough kids to create these organizations. I think it's absolute nonsense. So if you look at the state of Florida, under the age of 18, so from 13 to 18, there are 3,551 players on average for that entire age group from teenagers all the way up to 18. There are 395 kids per one team, right? So you're talking about 15, 16 kids on a team. There have got to be more kids who are able to play at the AAA level than that. All right, you look down at California, they're at 210. Again, Texas, you guys get kind of screwed here. You're at 577. Minnesota's highlighted in red here because it is a little bit of an anomaly. They do hockey very differently up there, and there are a billion kids that play up there. So it's just a little bit different than down here. What else? New Jersey is a very interesting one, right? So if you look at the numbers right now from the state of New Jersey, there are 11 guys that are playing at the AHL or the NHL level from the state of New Jersey. Yet New Jersey has possibly more opportunity than any other state in the entirety of the country, right? They are 153 kids for every one team at the 18U level. They're 116 at the 15 only and 16U level, and they're 154 at the 13U and 14U levels, right? I don't know that New Jersey has that many more unbelievable hockey players than the state of Florida does, right? At the 15s and 16s, they have 17 teams. At the 18U level, they have 10 teams. 13s and 14s, there are 15 teams to choose from. And their population size is not that higher than the state of Florida in a lot of respects, right? So you're talking about 19A, there's 700 more at the 15, 16s. They are 500 more at the 17s and 18s, and they are 600 and some odd more at the 13s and 14s. But that adds 12 teams more than our 3 teams here in the state. So if I haven't lost you yet, these numbers matter, right? Because we are consistently told that Florida doesn't have the population to support more than one AAA organization. So if that's the case, total nonsense. We have the kids. What we don't have, and I think this is where Sehoff really drops the ball, is we don't have the development models down here to make these kids any better. Right now, we are totally adhering to the youth sports business model as opposed to like any kind of long-term athletic development model where these kids are skill year round, right? I worked at a hockey rink where, obviously our goal is to make money. That's why we exist. As a business, my business here exists to make money, right? But we still have like a moral compass and we try to do the right thing when it comes to our athletes, because that's why I do this. I didn't get into sports performance to make money. I don't think anybody does, because there's very little money in this space. You get in because you want to help people, and you want to help people like achieve their goals, and I'm good at what I do. I enjoy it. I'm passionate about it, and I want to help people, and it is nice that I am also able to make money. But many of these programs and organizations, man, it is wild how much it costs. I've heard rumors of the South Alliance team this year. The kids are going to have to build it, live there, go to the academy that they've set up, and it's like a $30,000 barrier to entry before travel, right? How do you justify that? Like, A, you're pricing kids out because it's way too damn expensive, and then 2, you're pricing kids out because there's a ton of politics that go into play with these things, right? The running joke down here is if you're not on the Alliance at 10U, like, good luck making it at 14, 15, 16. We have completely boxed out the late bloomers, the kids who get better as they get older, the kids who become athletes and they work, doing things the right way. You got kids who are unbelievable at 10, 11, 12, 13 who completely fall off because their development is not done the right way and their skill. Then when these kids catch up to them, right, they don't have the physicality to match and they get left behind, but they still kind of get drug along on these teams because the parents are all friends now, and it's very common. If you're not on that team at a young age, there is no shot that you're going to make it. Like when it starts to matter at 14U, 15U, 16U, into 18U. So if the argument is that there's not enough kids, that's a nonsense argument. There are more than enough kids, and I've shown that here. The argument, I've also heard that the landscape of Florida like creates some challenges. Does it really though? I mean, like most of the hockey players, there are 2 areas, right? From Naples to Tampa, and then like Fort Lauderdale to Palm Beach. That is where 90% of hockey happens in the state of Florida. Jacksonville could see a nice little resurgence because they've just dumped a ton of money into that rink up there. But dude, Tampa, Florida has almost 20 sheets of ice, right? When I was playing, we had like 6. Like the development opportunity is there, but right now, the opportunity to make money is too high, and that is why these kids are skill. And I saw it firsthand when I was at the 17 dev camp up in Buffalo. The Southeast kids were small, they were unathletic, they may have been highly skilled, but the wheels are going to fall off of those kids, and they got dusted throughout most of the tournament. I think they lost the 12th place game, or they were playing for 11th place, ended up in 12th place. They were getting completely dusted, like when I had to take off to fly out, they were losing by like 5 or something, right? So the development model down here is absolutely brutal, and it is because people are trying to make money as opposed to doing the right thing and actually looking out for the best interest of both the families and the kids. And if you watch any of these videos or you know me personally, you know that I hate this specialization model. It's not just hockey, it's baseball, it's basketball. I got a kid who's a basketball player who, like, the one knock on him is that he's just not big enough. He's like fast enough, he plays great, he works hard, but he's not big enough. And I find myself during the off season having to work around his skill sessions, right? It should be off season, like this is the time that I have, this is the time that you come, and it doesn't work that way for any of these sports. For baseball, for hockey, for football even. These kids are playing year round, and it is so detrimental to their development. So that was nice little side rant there. The landscape of Florida, back to that. The landscape of Florida is really not all that challenging. You could have teams in South Florida. You could probably house 2 AAA teams here in Tampa, and you could compete. You may not be national champions every year, but you could absolutely compete and be like top 25, top 30, and those kids could have an opportunity to stay home and not leave, right, and play good hockey. But we can't allow that because I don't know why, if it's a money thing, if it's an embarrassment thing, I don't know why Sehoff just doesn't take the handcuffs off, take a leap of faith, and let these programs come to fruition. All right. So looking at the numbers, right? We need more access to AAA programs. I'm not saying that we need to have 50 of them down here because obviously there are not enough kids to support that. But if you really want to develop these kids and you want to create something that's going to keep them here, right, with their families in the area, developing, and really kind of like be able to put a feather in your cap as far as the state of Florida goes, you're going to have 2, 3, maybe even 4 kind of rough years where you've got just a free-for-all with these organizations deciding that everybody's going to be a AAA program, right? Because it's going to happen. And then what will happen is these programs will fall by the wayside because they cannot compete, right? That's the market taking care of itself. But you're going to have to just deal with the fact that for 2 or 3 years, maybe even 4, there's going to be some rough goes across the state. But just take the leap of faith, allow it to happen. We have more than enough kids to make this work, and more than enough facilities to make this work. And honest to God, like we're like Florida's like the haven for sports performance. Between the Tampa Bay area and South Florida, there are like 1 billion facilities where you could develop these kids athletically. And it doesn't happen because they leave. I see kids for 2, 3 months and then they're gone. 15, 16, 17 years old, living in other states, breaking up families. It's not a good thing. And the odds are these kids aren't going to make it where they want to make it. And if you could keep them home and develop them here, it would be a game changer. It would be less expensive. It would be a better fit for the community. It would be better for the sport. It would be better for the rinks down here. It would be better all the way around, yet we refuse to do it, and I don't understand why. And here's the thing, too. A lot of these kids that leave the state because there's no opportunity for them here, they go and they play watered-down AAA in other states. Like I mentioned before, the state of New Jersey has like 15 AAA organizations. There are not enough kids, like a lot of kids from Florida go up and play in New Jersey, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, and they play for these watered-down programs that really aren't that good, but it's AAA, so their parents want them to go there. And it's sad because, again, like I know families that have had to like split. They're married still and they're still together, but where the mom or the dad goes and lives with the kid because they have opportunity in another state, where now you've got like a family literally split apart to go like have opportunity that's not given down here, when we absolutely have the facilities, we have the coaches, we have the ability, we have quite literally everything, the volume of kids to make it work. All right, so that is my case. There are more than enough kids in the state of Florida to make this work. There are more than enough facilities in the state to make this work. There's more than enough talent in the state to make this work. We just need to take the handcuffs off, take a leap of faith, all right, and deal with the fact that we're not going to be a powerhouse for a few years until it all works itself out. All right, that's going to be it for today. That was a long one. It was a one take in 27 seconds. Good for me, right? Not sure what the next episode is going to be about. I think I want to do one on conditioning because I'm currently writing an article about all of the bad that happens in preseason conditioning and kids getting transported and rhabdo and full body cramps and all that kind of stuff. It's just something that needs to be talked about. So that may be the next one that I do. But outside of that, I hope everybody had a good summer. I hope everybody is ready to go this season, whether you're a coach or a player or a parent. I wish everyone well, have the best season possible, do good in school, and make sure you still keep coming to the gym. And we'll see you next time.
I don't want to hear